Today, my faithful minions, we're going to turn this into this. Step 1. Fix the proportions in the editor that you didn't fix with your pencil. This was destined to become a postcard, so hence putting in 5 by 7. It's not a typical dimensional size. So here we're just fixing little things, giving it a slightly more interesting shape. The pose and the composition, the flow of this piece was based heavily upon an artwork by an artist whose name I can't hope to pronounce. I'll flash it on the screen for you. One of the main things I had wanted to incorporate into my piece that was effective in theirs was the circular, sort of sweeping motion of it. So here I was using the warp tool to try to increase the space between the tail and the feet to give it more of that dynamic. And then here's just a lens distortion. A lot of this is just playing around. It's a lot of trial and error. You know, one of the beauties of digital art in the first place is its elasticity. Finagle it till you get tired. Or until it looks good. Affinity Photo, they have what's considered personas, and liquefies its own little persona. It's just that little icon at the top takes you into its own workspace. Make sure, by the way, you have your top layer selected when you do this. If you have the layer underneath it, it will appear as if nothing is happening, and you'll spend about 20 minutes going, what do I not understand? Which, by the way, shortcuts in Affinity Photo are a little bit different. Instead of Control-T in order to transform, you select and hit V, and that's how you'll get your little editing nodes to pop up. Realize, too, when you're playing, it can be messy. You're going to get rid of most of this sketch anyway once you do your line layers, and especially when you erase the background. You can have odd angles and all kinds of jarring, weird-looking things left over, so long as the outlines are where you want them. Then we pop that puppy into Krita, and we get to work on the line art. For this, since it's a phoenix, kind of went with a red-orange type of lines, considering you're kind of going to give a more of a glow feel. I actually, unfortunately, you'll see I broke down in the end of this and gave some more black lines around it, but the idea was to vary the colors of the line work, and probably used about 5 or 6 different colors in the lines. And you know, we're gonna go ahead and have our music break like we usually do. Today's music is by the YouTuber Myuu, whose name I've probably butchered in excess. So we're back in Affinity Photo to begin our cleanup process. Pick a color. Did orange, because, again, Phoenix. I set the orange layer to color mode. That's an actual mode, like overlay. You can set it to color, and then you just lower the opacity so it's not so overpowering. And then this is a gray tone texture. It's a photo of a sketchbook paper. Use it as a backdrop to texture and kind of spice up the background once we erase part of the sketch. Now around the more feathered edges, I used a pressure-sensitive brush to kind of leave a little bit more of that white mottled sketch texture in there, to give the edges a more uneven appearance, as you would expect feathers to feather out. It's a sort of slow process, but gives a pretty nice effect in the end. And so I was kind of doing some planning here as far as overall color scheme. And I knew I wanted the bird to be warm. So orange and red. And so I went with sort of a purple background, which didn't entirely make it to the end of the piece, but kind of was a good base to work from. Now on my desktop, I keep a folder of just different types of colors I like to try. I like to, just kind of give your brain a jump start as to what exactly do you want your coloring to look like. And I had really liked this piece here, just the whole flavor of it. And all I really took from it was the idea that it was done in marker. So I opened up Affinity's marker brushes and fiddled around with them until I got an effect I thought was all right. And then the other good thing about it was that they had a lot of white lines that showed up, white outlines that just kind of shine here and there. And so that's kind of what I was going for in my mind. Whether or not I got there is irrelevant, but that was the battle plan. You also saw the bright yellow phoenix I found online. I used it as a base with which to pick colors. I took the yellow from it, but the yellow was more saturated than what I was going for, so kind of muddied it down. And you can kind of see to the right there in the color swatches the kind of color palette I ended up with. It's a much grayer toned with some tan, still a lot of orange, more orange than. It's always kind of good to find an example to kind of give yourself a target. There's the target I'm going for, and then whether or not you get there is irrelevant. A little trick I picked up from another YouTuber as far as picking colors is, and this is just color theory in general, is that you pick a main color, and that's the color that's going to be most saturated. So, orange. And then the colors around it, you desaturate them the further away you get from orange. So any purple you use is a very grayed out purple next to your orange. And your yellow is close to orange, so you can use somewhat saturated yellow. It's to kind of group your colors together and give them theme, as it were. Now it's time for that dog break. Although first, I thought maybe we'll try something a little bit different, just for the sake of the ADHD that is YouTube. Here's a star exploding. Don't worry, the dog will follow. I wasn't planning on exploding the dog. So for this sort of fire glow that's around the phoenix, we used a soft brush hardness 0, and a layer set to screen, 20% opacity, and then just came through with an eraser and took parts out to give it that kind of feathered fire look and mixed some other color into it. As you know, fire has a variety of yellow and orange. Shadows on a flaming bird are sort of bizarre. So in this case, I just kind of went with the darkest part should probably be in the center, since the fire is coming off of every edge. And then, of course, with any work, it's all about those lovely little highlights. This is that white line influence from that piece we looked at earlier. I also find an easy way to make thinner lines if you don't have a program with the best stabilization is to do a thick line and then erase back parts. Here I was just searching for a stock image of feathers to kind of give more texture to the piece. And for those of you unfamiliar with stock, always check the rules. Here you can use it in whatever you like, pretty much. And when I first got this, I was trying to give more feather to the bird itself, but it didn't really end up working that way. It ended up more of a fiery flare in the background that kind of echoed the wings nicely. Put a mask on top to take it off the bird. Masks are your friend if you don't know about them. Google them. We can do a whole video on that if anyone's interested. It's actually the first time I've used a glow effect in the mode layers to a good advantage. This was using the reflect mode, which I'm not entirely sure the science behind reflect, but obviously it makes things more golden, a little bit brighter. Recolor is an easy way to kind of give your colors theme if they're not playing right. Just gives everything a tint. Now, the trick, though, is to take out parts of it so that you're not getting too much of that hue. And then, of course, in the end, we always nix. Just so you know, you can do a white vignette. Low key is in reference to a type of photography lighting. Your key light is stronger, you have more shadows, as opposed to high key, which is much brighter. And this is where I broke down, went back into krita and added some black lines on top of everything. The piece didn't have the definition I was really trying to get out of it. After all, this was more a marker and ink piece anyway. It's not like we were trying to copy paint. I once had someone tell me you're not supposed to draw on facial features with lines. Everything's supposed to be light and shadow, which is great in the paint world. But open any comic book you'll want, you'll find beautiful, beautiful line work. So lines aren't really a cheat so much as they're a matter of choice. So we're coming to that time again where I get on my knees and beg for subscribers. Please hit the subscribe button. Make my day. By the way, if anyone out there in the World Wide Web does music that they'd like to have as the interlude I distract my loyal minions with, give me a shout. I'm always looking for people to give a shout out to.